Welcome to the business of being healthy, where we are passionate about treating our health as good as we treat our wealth. Shelly Bryan here, and I am obsessed with sharing real life experiences and wisdom to help save you time, heartache, and money as you continue to grow personally and professionally. Twice a week, we push aside that BS to take massive intentional action. And I promise by tuning in, you will receive the straightforward talk you've been waiting for, filled with actionable steps that will inspire you to achieve the health and wealth you desire while you are building your empire. Welcome back here to the show. If you are new, I am so excited to have you here. If you're returning, literally means the world to me because I know time is an incredible asset that we all have the same amount of, and having you come back for more means that you're finding something valuable. And that is my goal here, is to cut through the BS and bring you different perspectives, business knowledge, health knowledge, so that you can pursue your goals faster. Now, today's episode stems from actually another podcast. But before I dive into that, I know that if you're tuning into my weekly, I have 2 episodes that drop a week, right? I have a guest episode on Tuesdays, and then on Fridays, I have solo. And on my solo episodes, I'm highlighting all of you who have left a review. It means the absolute world, and I want to call out your name. So be sure that you head over to the link, click leave a review, leave a few words, and of course, that 5-star review. It takes just a few, like 30 seconds, seriously, to be able to do this, but it means the world to me, and I can't wait to call out your name here on the show. And so today's review comes from Bambagram. I love that. I'm sorry if I mispronounced it, but Bambagram. It says, best advice for inspiring women. And she goes on to say, Shelly does a great job uplifting, encouraging, and motivating female entrepreneurs. And I just have to say thank you. Number 1, for leaving the review, but 2, for the kind words. It truly means the world to me. And that's the thing. It's not only the inspiration. I love that side of it. And I think there could be so much about inspiration, affirmations, blah, blah, blah. What I want my inspiration to always be focused on is taking action. Everything is about taking action, not just dreaming. Dreaming is a big part, but let's take massive action to achieve those goals. So today is one that is a perspective change for you, let's call it, or a new perspective I want you to think about, because it hit me like a ton of bricks. I was actually listening to The Game with Alex Hormozi. This is a podcast that I highly recommend. It has been instrumental a lot in my business mindset growth, I want to say over the last, 18 months. I actually shared this on my social media. I have shared this in a podcast as well, my top listening podcast, because like I said before, time is valuable asset, and I want to make sure that we use the most of it. But what Alex said, and he was actually being interviewed, he was sharing an interview on his podcast when he was being interviewed on another. And he said this simple phrase, but it hit me because it just provided clarity. And you might be like, yeah, duh, Shelly, but it just is so nice. And I want to dive into it. It's worth it. And it says growth, or he says, growth is another word for change. Did you hear that? Growth is another word for change. Now, the reason why that hit me is because I can literally go back to different periods of my life, different periods of my professional career, of my health, of just relationships, where I can tell it's like, oh yeah, I'm in a period of growth. Well, what that means for you is that you're changing. And what that also means for those around you is that you're changing. And you simply, it is so apparent, and this has really happened for Chris and I over the last several years, is the growth, AKA change, that you go through. Some people like it and some people don't. And for me, it's even been family that didn't like the period of change that I was going through. And it was because I was standing up for myself, setting stronger boundaries, utilizing my time, saying no to activities. That's where that change really upset those around me. And I started even thinking about it just with Chris and I. We've been together 22 years. There's been a period of time, obviously a long period of time, where I was in corporate America. I had a job. Then I actually started a side hustle when I had my corporate job. And then I left it, multiple businesses, different things that I've done. Meanwhile, Chris, he's a pilot. He has been in the construction industry and commercial real estate industry, since 2005. It's been different businesses. We've gone through hard things. We've gone through good things, but we've had, Chris and I, periods of growth that have not happened at the same time. So as you can imagine, in a marriage, that even causes, I don't want to say friction, it just causes like, holy cow, different perspectives based upon what you're going through. And when I look back just even at our marriage, I'm like, wow, I think one of the things that makes us so strong in our marriage and why we are able to work so well together is that we allowed each of us, like the other person, to go through this period of growth without judgment, without trying to tell them how to do it like our way, we just looked at each other. Like, I know, when Chris had one company, there was a significant period of growth, and it was really kind of scary to me. I knew he was going to be okay, but it was something I'd never gone through. Neither had he, but he was in it. And so when he was going through it together, he was learning at an exponential rate. He was changing, he was growing at an exponential rate. And I was kind of left behind. Same thing in corporate. There was times where I was getting significant training that he wasn't getting, but because we respected each other's way of growth, it worked out. Like, that's one of the things that I think when it comes to like people that you are closest to, it's opening up that space and be like, hey, I see what you're going through, or I see you're changing, you're growing, you're doing something new. I'm here to respect you. I'm here to support you, and let's step back. We both go through it in different ways. I love reading. I love learning from other people. I love listening to podcasts, hearing other examples. Chris loves to do and learn. So we both have our own ways, but we respected that. And so as we have evolved and changed over this 22 years we've been together, 18 years married, it's been a nice, like toggle, teeter-totter, back and forth, balancing act that we've been able to go through that has really made our marriage strong and has now made what we are building with our construction company even stronger. Because like I've said before, each other's strengths is the opposite's weakness. So we truly balance each other out, and we have those periods of growth and change. But something hit me just this week. I was on a walk with a friend that I highly respect, a worldly businesswoman, let's say. And we were just talking about different things going on, obviously, in the world. She is highly traveled, has built businesses all over the world. And she had asked me, like, what are some of your goals? I shared my goals, and I also shared a little bit more about my career path. And it was interesting because she was like, holy cow, you are so brave. And it hit, I was like, what do you mean I'm brave? Most people call me crazy with the things that I did, the changes that I made. And she's like, I explained further on one career shift that I made. And she's like, you have any idea how brave it is to do what you did? And it got me thinking when I heard Alex say, growth is another word for change, because growth is hard and change is scary. And so one thing that is absolutely required to have both of those things happen is bravery. And it just hit me. And it's not, I'm sharing this not to be like, oh, look at me, look at how brave I am. I'm sharing this because I hope that if you are in a period of growth, whether that's in your professional career, in your relationships, in your health, in any area of your life. If you are in a period of growth where maybe it feels like scary and you feel like turning back, is go find some bravery. Go find something where you are truly brave in and lean on that to get you through this, to push you ahead, to make that change. I was making significant money when I was in the when I was in the financial industry, but then in the pharmaceutical industry. Plus, I had what is commonly known as the golden handcuffs, right? So I had a very significant salary, commission. I had car, I had health insurance, I had a ridiculous 401k. I had all these beautiful golden handcuffs, and I walked away from it. People thought I was crazy. And it took my friend and it took me a while to get through this. I thought I was crazy. But had outgrown that position. And I was no longer going to stay in a position just because of the golden handcuffs. And it took my friend saying to me recently, "You are so brave," for me to realize, yeah, I am. And you know what? That bravery is why I have had so much growth in my mindset, why I have been able to start the podcast, have the media company, start the restaurant, have the restaurant failed, be part of the construction, grow the construction company, do everything, is because of that bravery. And so if there was any muscle that I would say to start strengthening, to create growth and change, it is bravery. And I was thinking back again, because I love reflecting, like I shared, because the more that you can reflect and think about, that gives you fuel, it gives you proof to show what you are capable of when you enter into a new area of growth. You are changing. And so I'm going to list off a few things that I know, reflecting back, have made it easier for me. Now, everyone is different, but I'm just sharing my experience in hopes that it helps you. So one thing that has been instrumental is self-reflection. It is me. You hear me talk about this. I think I had a reel go on my Instagram a couple days ago talking about, what you can control. And it's you. So self-reflection. So I look back at different periods of my life, in my career specifically, as what did I like that I did? What did I not like that I did? And how would I do it when I'm presented with that situation again? Self-reflection has been so huge. And right along with that goes responsibility and ownership. This is something that I feel like I am trying to teach my kids every single day, because responsibility and ownership, when you own it, it's so easy. When you screw up, when you win and you own it, holy cow, does it get easier. And so taking responsibility for the F-ups. I say it all the time. I'm like, yep, I screwed up. That was me. Here's what I did. Here's how I'm going to fix it and move on. Own it and move on. That's something that I absolutely think is incredibly important to strengthening that muscle of bravery, because it does take bravery to take responsibility and own anything. And we always say that, and it almost like thinks about the negative, but it's also the positive side of things. Own your wins, own it, stand proud, share them. Those that don't support you, trust me, they will not be along much longer, because your change will make them uncomfortable. That leads me into the next one, which is letting go of those that don't serve you. And I hate to say it, but it also includes family. In 2018, I actually had to sit my father down and end the relationship there, because it was no longer serving me. And in fact, it hadn't been serving me for decades. But because of that feeling of, it's like a entitlement, I felt like I had to. You don't have to do anything. And now it can change. I've heard people talk like you can set boundaries on what that looks like. And I did that for years, but I finally had to do what was best for me. And letting go of certain people, even certain ways that you interact in certain circles, is probably it's so powerful. I can't tell you, it is so powerful, and it lets you regain focus on the change and the growth that you are striving for, and you are the only one that knows what that looks like. Couple more for you before I close out. These are just things that, like I said, I've looked back and know that these are the things that have helped me strengthen my bravery muscle so that I can have more growth and change to get to the person that I want to become. And you know what? Sometimes that means doing things that others think is crazy. It means not following the norm. It means having more opportunity for collaborations and everybody can win than competition, you or me. I shared my thing of doing the crazy thing, right? Leaving my so-called safe corporate job. I was dying in it. And no amount of money. I had to leave that because it was taking away from my growth. It was taking away from the person that I wanted to be, and the money was not enough to keep me there. Another one is failing, not being afraid to fail. Talk about bravery. If you haven't tuned in, there is an episode. I'll link it in the notes. I can't think of it off the top of my head, but the episode where I share the title of is it You're Changing Careers Again? Talk about failing, right? Talk about bravery. Yes, I have changed careers many times. And guess what? If I didn't do that, I would not be as knowledgeable, as confident. I would not be able to share my story, speak to groups to be able to help them achieve their goals if I hadn't walked the walk and gone through it. And you know what? Some of those included significant fails, but those fails were great lessons. And then it gave me an opportunity to even go back and say, did I learn the right lesson that I thought it was about? That has been a huge changer for me this year in 2023. And last but not least is asking for help. I've shared this before, but I used to think that asking for help was a sign of weakness. When you're raised as like an achiever, and I competed on horses, I was in sales organizations, it was always stack ranking. And guess who was going to always be first? Me. And it didn't matter who was in my way. I was going to be there. And so asking for help seemed like a sign of weakness, because if I can't do it by myself, then I don't deserve, or I'm not worthy of that top spot. Holy cow, was I wrong? And so by asking for help, I shared earlier, the way that I learn is actually best is I would always watch, but now I engage and I actually ask for help. And I think that asking for help is one of the most brave things that you can do, because it's admitting, hey, I don't know as much as you. Can you help me? I see that you're successful over here. Can you help me? What would you do differently? How would you get to that point? Was that a successful track, or would you have done it a different way? Raising your hand and asking for help will, without doubt, strengthen that bravery muscle for you. So again, I share this just as like, it was like such an aha moment for me that growth is another word for change. Growth is hard. Change is scary. But both require bravery. And if you are in a point where you're like, I cannot go into this job anymore, I cannot do this, it is soul sucking, go strengthen that bravery muscle. And that bravery muscle might be to go find a new job, or to save up and give yourself time to go find the new position or create the job that you want. It might be letting go of that person in your life that you think you can't, like I did with my dad. So if this hit a chord with you, know that I'm an open book. I share it all here on the show. If you want to engage or talk or ask me a question, or just get that like little push to keep going, I'll be there for you. Shoot me a DM, Instagram, and or LinkedIn. I'm there for you. I know you have this, and I know that there is bravery that you have exhibited in your past that you can lean on now to get you through this change, to become the person that you want to become. Thanks again.